Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, or old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this Microfiche Time Capsule, we are looking at the Ladies' Home Journal from March 1884, and this article is our second part of our series on what women want to know. So when we did the first one last time, and basically it was just a gathering of very short pieces of advice for women in general. A lot about parenting, but not all of it was good. Not all of the advice was good. It was about 50-50, I would say. 50% good, 50% not so great. But I'm interested to see what they have to say this time. The last article I read ended up being super positive, and so I'm hoping we have something along those lines. At least a couple of things that would be super positive, so let's take a look. What women want to know. Train up the children to eat fresh fruit for dessert instead of pie, and to be satisfied with plain and simple food. That is excellent advice. I appreciate that. Not too much sugar, Be satisfied with plain and simple food. Yeah, you don't have to have filet mignon. It's okay if you just have a pork chop, Any woman is too tightly dressed who cannot raise her arms straight above her head and clasp her hands, who cannot stoop to tie her shoe or pick up a pin without heightened color. Ooh, I like this. Ooh, this is kind of a little bit controversial, though, because this was the era, 1884, this was the era of tight lacing. This was the era of very tight corsets. So it's interesting to me that they specify what you should be able to do in your clothing, and that if you're not able to do it, then you are dressed too tightly. Your clothes don't fit you properly. Yeah? Get something a little bit looser. You'll thank me later. You should be able to do some basic motions, like raise your arms above your head and clasp your hands. Bend down and tie your shoe. Yeah? You should be able to do these things. I like that. Tall, slender women can wear the double skirt to advantage, where it makes the short woman still shorter, as horizontal lines crossing the figure apparently shorten it, and stripes or long lines lengthen it. Very cute. I've heard this exact same advice in a magazine probably 15 years ago. So it's still advice that's floating around today, and I'm sure it's true. I am not a fashion expert, so I couldn't really say one way or the other, but I have heard this before, multiple times. So, interesting that it ends up here. Yeah, it is for women, right? This is fashion advice. The immense bouquets de corsage, which are the delight of the women of the present day, are only too effective in concealing graceful contours, and are really no more than excrescence on the dress. I'm going to look up that word because I am not familiar with the word excrescence. Excrescence is correct. Yay! Okay, it is means an unattractive or superfluous object or feature. Unattractive or superfluous. So they're saying that if you add flowers to your dress, that it's unattractive? That's what they're saying, right? Excrescence is unattractive and superfluous. Interesting. They're like, those flowers are ugly. Jeez. Now, I have to admit, I am not familiar with the actual style. So I'm going to look up really quick, and hopefully I'll be able to show a picture or two on the screen. So, immense bouquets de corsage. Okay, well, yeah, it's a corsage. This is a little gathering of flowers that they tended to wear, pinned to the front of their dress, on the bodice. Yeah, sometimes at the neckline, sometimes slightly lower. And they're actually calling them ugly. They're calling them ugly. Victorian evolution of the corsage. This is an article from recollections.biz. I think that would be a very interesting article, so just throwing that out there. Thought I'd give him a shout out. There's some really lovely pictures of women wearing corsages, so interesting that they're saying that makes it look bad. Like, okay, whoever decided that didn't like them. Because I don't think they look bad. I just, it's not really my style, but hey, if you like it, more power to you. All right, refuse to tell your home worries to your closest friend. They are nobody's business but your own. I kind of disagree with that. Because if you are concerned about something at home, maybe you need help with it, and maybe you need to tell your closest friend so that they can help you to, for example, escape abuse. I'm just putting that out there. Anyway, respect their feelings and attachments. Let the lovely parlor maid have her lover openly. She will have him anyway, and if you have her confidence, you may save her lifelong misery. Oh, interesting. I've heard of this, like people having maids and then telling them that they aren't allowed to date. For example, Pollyanna, if you've ever seen that movie, it's old. It's an old movie. But there was a maid who had a boyfriend, and they had to meet in secret because otherwise she'd lose her job. So even though it's not like they were sleeping together, they were just going out. They kissed sometimes, but it wasn't even a big deal. So, and they're like, no, let her have her boyfriend, and then maybe she'll get married sometime, and then she'll be happy. Yeah, think of your lovely parlor maid. Interesting. That was actually a thing. Apparently that was a thing. It is about time someone was appointed to make an investigation on the subject and see whether the girls nowadays really have any foreheads, or whether they have all gone off like Pat's gun with a bang. What? Okay, whoever wrote this doesn't like the hairstyle right now. Maybe they have bangs? Is that why they made this joke about bang? That it covers their forehead? Or like, does their hair cover their forehead? Or is it like their bonnets? Because I know they wore bonnets back then, but whoever wrote this was extraordinarily prejudiced against whatever style it was. Like, I can't see your forehead. I don't know if you're intelligent or not. Sorry. They actually thought that a high forehead meant that you were smarter. I'm like, boy, that's embarrassing because I have a very short forehead. I promise I'm smart. All right. Respect your husband's prejudices. Do respect his relations, especially his mother. She is not the less his mother because she is your mother-in-law. She loved him before you did. I think this is very poorly worded, but the sentiment is good. Try to get along with your mother-in-law because she loves your husband also. But like, respect your husband's prejudices. Yeah, if your husband's a prejudiced person, then I disagree. You do not have to respect your husband's prejudices, but I don't think that's what they mean in this case, but it's very poorly worded. Pay your servants regularly. Yeah, I hope so. Geez. Keep accounts, live within your allowance for the sake of everybody, yourself included, know exactly how much you have to spend, and save something out of it if you can. Yeah, that's just general good advice. That's not necessarily women's advice. Everybody should, keep within their means. So I like this one, definitely. Pay your servants regularly, like being like what they let out with. Like, geez, if you have somebody who's working for you, I sincerely hope that you're paying them. Like, that's, like the fact that they even had to mention it makes me concerned. Have an open fire if you can manage it, and do have the hearth swept every time coals are put on. Okay, that's good advice. You want to be safe with your fire. I'm not sure why they would want an open fire as opposed to a fire in a fireplace. I guess maybe they think it's more, or like it's safer? Like, I'm not sure. I have no information on this. I am not really a fire expert. Read something in the papers besides fashion notes and society columns. Have some knowledge of what is going on in foreign countries. Also good advice. I think in general everyone should know something about foreign countries, about current events. Yeah? You should know something about the world. Don't just sit around in ignorance because you just don't want to. Remember that you are married to a man and not to a god. Be prepared for imperfections. Also good advice. Nobody's perfect. It's okay if he makes mistakes, and so do you. Yeah? Wherever milk is used plentifully, there the children grow into robust men and women. Wherever the place is usurped by tea, we have degeneracy swift and certain. Well, considering that rhymes, I think that was on purpose. Okay. Well, yeah. Small children need milk. After about the age of 2, though, you don't, really. So, if they only drink chamomile tea after that, it really shouldn't make a difference. However, it sounds to me almost like they didn't quite have enough to eat, but that if they drank milk, then they'd get more calories. But if you drink tea, you don't, because tea has very, very few calories. It's funny because I had this debate with somebody once. They said black coffee has 0 calories. That's not true, actually. If you look it up, a cup of black coffee, I think, has 5 calories. It's not 0. It's very low, but it's not 0. And it's the same thing with tea. So you have a cup of black tea or green tea or herbal tea or fruit tea or whatever it is that you like. It's not 0 calories, but it's very close to 0. So you're not really going to be getting a lot of nutritional value from it. However, if you drink milk, then you have quite a few more calories in a cup of milk. I'm actually going to look up really quickly how many calories are in a cup of milk, because we just found out that there's 5 calories in a cup of coffee. Let's see. 103. I didn't even check what kind of 1% milk fat. 103 calories in a cup of milk. So that's significant enough. That's 5% of your daily intake. So it will help you in the long run, especially if you drink it regularly. If your diet otherwise is slightly lower calorie than it should be. So that's my opinion. That's just an idea of why they would think that. But otherwise, I don't know why they'd be like, don't drink tea. All right. Court plaster made at home is economical and is said to be highly successful. Dissolve 1 pint of French in isinglass in 1 pint of warm water, and to this add 10 cents worth of pure glycerin. Oh my gosh. And 5 cents worth of tincture of arnica. Lay a piece of black or white silk on a board and paint it over with the mixture. What in the heck are they doing? Okay, first of all, you don't say 10 cents worth. You tell them how much it is, like how many grams or ounces or whatever it is. Cups, do some sort of measurement. 10 cents worth? What if the price changes? Then it's no longer 10 cents worth now, is it? And what the world are you doing with pure glycerin? Glycerin is extremely explosive, so I find this not a very good advice. Don't do this. Okay, anybody listening to this today, do not do this at home. Please don't do this. If you want to try it out, make sure it is in a controlled environment with experts who know what they're doing, okay? Don't play with glycerin. That is my advice of the day. If mothers would apply remedies the first night, croup is as easily cured as a common cold, when taken in time. The instant croupy threatenings are observed, the child should be kept indoors, should eat very light food indeed, and not much of that until the symptoms have abated. Okay, the amount that they eat has nothing to do with croup. Okay, I'm sorry, my experience is that my child had croup. Yeah. And it was very scary. And the only way I knew it is from that barking cough. I immediately recognized that she was barking, that was a barking cough. And I took her to the doctor and I asked if that was croup, and she said, yes, it is. And I was like, well, at least I was right in that. What they gave me was a steroid that I could give her if the coughing got so bad that it sounded like she wasn't getting enough air. And that I should watch her color on her face, and that especially at night, if it ever got to a point where her lips started turning blue, or her fingernails, then to give her the steroid and to call an ambulance immediately. So croup is flippin' scary. What it is, it's an inflammation of the trachea. So instead of like asthma, which is an inflammation of the lungs, it's in the windpipe. It's not in the lungs. So you would think, oh, well, that's good. Then it's not as serious. Well, but your windpipe leads to your lungs. So if that gets so swollen that it closes off, then the child is not able to breathe. And that is very, very scary. Extremely scary. Keeping a child indoors, I agree with, because if you are sick, then you should stay indoors in general. My child did not really have a fever from it, so it didn't necessarily need to, lower the body temperature. But whether or not they should eat or not, is not at all helpful. It has nothing to do with how much you eat. Anyways, so this advice is not really that helpful. And apply remedies the first night. Like, what remedies are you talking about? You mean like Ipecac? That makes you throw up. So, I'm not sure. Young girls, don't allow yourselves to fall into untidy habits. If you have not an inherent love of cleanliness, cultivate it. If you have but 3 calico frocks, you can be as neat as in your wardrobe boasted of silk and satin gowns. There is nothing more displeasing than an untidy woman, young or old. Hair full of dust, shoe buttons pinned on, nails with black rims, clothes ill-fitting, basted and pinned. In fact, there is no limit to the untidiness that a person will fall into who is given to this sort of thing. Well, yeah, there are extreme cases. Interesting that they specifically mentioned cleanliness, like personal hygiene. Like, wash your clothes, dude. Wash your hair. Comb it, brush it. Basic things. Make sure that you take a bath on a regular basis, things like that. Hair full of dust. That sounds disgusting. This was just following the era of men wearing powdered wigs. I believe the women wore them as well. But I believe they were also a thing of the past at this point. So that they dust their hair, because that's disgusting. I guess that's kind of dry shampooing it. Yeah? Yeah, don't do that. It's gross. Yeah. Make sure your clothes fit properly and are clean. That's all they're saying. No, I support this. I support this. Nervous children who toss and turn and cry out that they cannot go to sleep may sometimes be quieted by having their feet rubbed vigorously with a flesh brush. What in the world is a flesh brush? That sounds disgusting. Okay, let me see if I can find a picture. Okay, it's like a soft bristle brush. Like, it looks kind of like a fingernail brush, I would say, or like a scrub brush, but not quite as strong as that. It's a little softer. I think. It looks softer. I'm hoping it's softer, because otherwise that's very uncomfortable. Oh, man. A warm bath will sometimes be effectual, but generally it does not conduce to quiet so much as waken. See that the room and the bed also has been thoroughly aired and is properly ventilated. All study in the evening should be forbidden to such a child, and after adjusting the physical appliances which tend to sleep, tell him to picture to himself a little winding brook off in the deep woods, carrying upon it a leaf or a chip. Or, after reading that lovely story of Hans Andersen, tell him to think about Ole Lukoe's gay umbrella which she spreads over the heads of good children, and upon which is painted their happy dreams. I have known restless children to lie down and court sleep for the thought of Ole's umbrella. I've never read that story. Now I want to read it. That's interesting. Here's some advice on how to get a child to go to sleep. I don't know if I would say that my child is nervous if they couldn't go to sleep very easily in the evening. I would agree that a warm bath would probably wake them up more than make them tired. All study in the evening should be forbidden, so it's basically the equivalent of telling people to put away their social media in the evenings. Back then it was books, yeah. Tell them to put away their books and turn off the lights, yeah. I love that, picturing a winding brook carrying a leaf on it. Like, that's very relaxing. Like, I could picture you falling to sleep up from that. unless you had a very sensitive bladder, in which case the water aspect might make you need to go to the bathroom. But that umbrella, which she spreads over the heads of good children, and upon which is painted their happy dreams. I have never read this story, and now I really want to read it, but I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. I probably did not. Ole Luke Oe. That's interesting. So I liked most of these. I think most of them were very good, like, general advice. I liked the fashion ideas. I feel like the author had very strong opinions on some of them, though. You're like, calm down, that's just your opinion. It's not like this is the only right way to do it. So yeah, like, I found that very interesting this time. And I really appreciate that there are so many positive things to go along with some of the negatives that they're talking about. And so yeah, I'm going to continue this series as long as we're having fun with it. And by we, I mean me, because I'm the one who's reading it. But I hope that you're enjoying them too. I thought that was very interesting. And like the corsages they used to wear, I was not aware that that was a thing at this time. Corsages I don't think are terribly controversial, but it's interesting that they're like telling people that they looked ugly. Like, seriously, oh my goodness, calm down. And then we can't see your forehead. That was so funny. So I feel like these are very innocuous. It's not something that I feel like any of this advice is dangerous, except the playing with the glycerin thing. Yeah, don't do that. Ever. Jeez, that's a good way to explode your house. Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the Microfiche time capsule for today, and if you're enjoying listening to our video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.